The New Age movement is a Western spiritual movement that developed in the second half of the 20th century. Its central precepts have been described as drawing on both Eastern and Western spiritual and metaphysical traditions and infusing them with influences from self-help and motivational psychology. The term New Age refers to the coming astrological Age of Aquarius. The movement aims to create a spirituality without borders or confining dogmas that is inclusive and pluralistic. It holds to a holistic worldview, emphasizing that the mind, body, and spirit are interrelated and that there is a form of monism and unity throughout the universe. It attempts to create a worldview that includes both science and spirituality, and embraces a number of forms of mainstream science as well as other forms of science that are considered fringe. The origins of the movement can be found in medieval astrology and alchemy, such as the writings of Paracelsus, in Renaissance interests in Hermeticism, in 18th-century mysticism, such as that of Emanuel Swedenborg, and in beliefs in animal magnetism espoused by Franz Mesmer. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, authors such as Godfrey Higgins and the esotericists Eliphas Levi, Helena Blavatsky, and George Gurdjieff articulated specific histories, cosmologies, and some of the basic philosophical principles that would influence the movement. It experienced a revival as a result of the work of individuals such as Alice Bailey and organizations such as the Theosophical Society. It gained further momentum in the 1960s, taking influence from metaphysics, perennial philosophy, self-help psychology, and the various Indian gurus who visited the West during that decade. In the 1970s, it developed a social and political component. The New Age movement includes elements of older spiritual and religious traditions ranging from monotheism through pantheism, pandeism, panentheism, and polytheism combined with science and Gaia philosophy. Particularly archaeoastronomy, astronomy, ecology, environmentalism, the Gaia hypothesis, UFO religions, psychology, and physics. New Age practices and philosophies sometimes draw inspiration from major world religions, Buddhism, Taoism, Chinese folk religion, Christianity, Hinduism, Sufism, Judaism, Sikhism. With strong influences from East Asian religions, esotericism, Gnosticism, Hermeticism, idealism, neo-paganism, New Thought, spiritualism, theosophy, universalism, and wisdom tradition. History, origins. The author Neville Drury claimed there are four key precursors of the New Age, who had set the way for many of its widely held precepts. The first of these was Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish scientist who after a religious experience devoted himself to Christian mysticism, believing that he could travel to heaven and hell and communicate with angels, demons and spirits, and who published widely on the subject of his experiences. The second person was Franz Mesmer, who had developed a form of healing using magnets, believing that there was a force known as animal magnetism that affected humans. The third figure was the Russian Helena Blavatsky, one of the founders of the Theosophical Society, through which he propagated her religious movement of theosophy, which itself combined a number of elements from Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism with Western elements. The fourth figure was George Gurdjieff, who founded the philosophy of the Fourth Way, through which he conveyed a number of spiritual teachings to his disciples. A fifth individual whom Drury identified as an important influence upon the New Age movement was the Indian Swami Vivekananda, an adherent of the philosophy of Vedanta who first brought Hinduism to the West in the late 19th century. The term New Age was used as early as 1809 by William Blake, who described a coming era of spiritual and artistic advancement in his preface to Milton the poem by stating, "When the New Age is at leisure to pronounce, all will be set righter." Some of the New Age movement's constituent elements appeared initially in the 19th century metaphysical movements, spiritualism, theosophy, and New Thought, and also the alternative medicine movements of chiropractics and naturopathy. These movements have roots in transcendentalism, mesmerism, Swedenborgianism, and various earlier Western esoteric or occult traditions, such as the Hermetic arts of astrology, magic, alchemy, and Kabbalah. The term New Age was used in this context in Madame Blavatsky's book The Secret Doctrine, published in 1888. a weekly journal of Christian liberalism and socialism titled The New Age, was published as early as 1894. It was sold to a group of socialist writers headed by Alfred Richard Orridge and Holbrook Jackson in 1907. Contributors included H. G. Wells, George Bernard Shaw, and William Butler Yeats. The magazine became a forum for politics, literature, and the arts. Between 1908 and 1914, it was instrumental in pioneering the British avant-garde from vorticism to imagism. Orridge met P. D. Ouspensky, then a young original philosopher of metaphysics, in 1914 and began correspondence with Harry Houdini. He became less interested in literature and art with an increased focus on mysticism and other spiritual topics. The magazine was sold in 1921. According to Brown University, The New Age helped to shape modernism in literature and the arts from 1907 to 1922. Development. Popularization behind these ideas has roots in the work of early 20th-century writers such as D. H. Lawrence and William Butler Yeats. In the early to mid-1900s, American mystic, theologian, and founder of the Association for Research and Enlightenment Edgar Cayce was a seminal influence on what later would be termed the New Age movement. He was known in particular for the practice some refer to as channeling. The psychologist Carl Jung was a proponent of the concept of the Age of Aquarius. In a letter to his friend Peter Baines, dated August 12, 1940, Jung wrote a passage. "This year reminds me of the enormous earthquake in 26 BC that shook down the great temple of Karnak. It was the prelude to the destruction of all temples, because a new time had begun. 1940 is the year when we approach the meridian of the first star in Aquarius. It is the premonitory earthquake of the new age year." Former theosophist Rudolf Steiner and his anthroposophical movement are a major influence. Neo-theosophist Alice Bailey published the book Discipleship in the New Age, which used the term New Age in reference to the transition from the astrological age of Pisces to Aquarius. While claims of racial bias in the writings of Rudolf Steiner and Alice Bailey were made, Bailey was firmly opposed to the Axis powers. She believed that Adolf Hitler was possessed by the dark forces, and Steiner emphasized racial equality as a principle central to anthroposophical thought and humanity's progress. Any racial elements from these influences have not remained part of the anthroposophical society, as contemporary adherents of the society have either not adopted or repudiated these beliefs. Another early usage of the term was by the American artist, mystic, and philosopher Walter Russell, who spoke of this New Age philosophy of the spiritual reawakening of mana. A man's purpose in this New Age is to acquire more and more knowledge. In his essay Power Through Knowledge, which was also published in 1944. Contemporary usage of the term. The subculture that later became known as New Age already existed in the early 1970s, based on and adopting ideas originally present in the counterculture of the 1960s. Two entities founded in 1962, the Isaon Institute in Big Sur, California, and the Findhorn Foundation, an intentional community which continues to operate the Findhorn Eco-Village near Findhorn, Murray, Scotland, played an instrumental role during the early growth period of the New Age movement. Widespread usage of the term New Age began in the mid-1970s, when increasing numbers of people began to perceive a broad similarity between a wide variety of alternative ideas and pursuits, and started to think of them as part of one movement. This probably influenced several thousand small metaphysical book and gift stores that increasingly define themselves as New Age bookstores. As a result of the large-scale activities surrounding the harmonic convergence in 1987, the American mass media further popularized the term as a label for the alternative spiritual subculture, including practices such as meditation, channeling, crystal healing, astral projection, psychic experience, holistic health, simple living, and environmentalism. Or belief in phenomena such as Earth mysteries, ancient astronauts, extraterrestrial life, unidentified flying objects, crop circles, and reincarnation. Several New Age publications appeared by the late 1980s such as Psychic Guide, Yoga Journal, New Age Voice, New Age Retailer, and NAPRA Review by the New Age Publishers and Retailers Alliance. several key events occurred, which raised public awareness of the New Age subculture: the production of the musical Hair, the American tribal love rock musical with its opening song Aquarius, and its memorable line "This is the dawning of the Age of Aquarius." Publication of Linda Goodman's best-selling astrology book Sun Signs and Love Signs. The release of Shirley MacLaine's book Out on a Limb, later adapted into a television mini-series with the same name. And the Harmonic Convergence Planetary Alignment on August 16 and 17, 1987, organized by Joseph Copyright Arga 1/4 Els in Sedona, Arizona. The claims of channelers Jane Roberts, Helen Schuckman, J.Z. Knight, Neil Donald Walsh, and René Gaudet contributed to the movement's growth. Relevant New Age works include the writings of James Redfield, Eckhart Tolle, Barbara Marx Hubbard, Christopher Hills, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, John Holland, Gary Zukav, Wayne Dyer, and Rhonda Byrne. While J. Gordon Melton, Wouter Groff, and Paul Helas have emphasized personal aspects, Mark Satin, Theodore Roszak, Marilyn Ferguson, and Corinne McLaughlin have described New Age as a values-based socio-political movement. Spirituality, philosophy and cosmology. While the New Age lacks any unified belief system, many spiritual practices and philosophies feature commonly among adherents of the movement, sometimes referred to as New Agers. Religion and science. Lifestyle. New Age spirituality has led to a wide array of literature on the subject and an active niche market, with books, music, crafts, and services in alternative medicine available at New Age stores, fairs, and festivals. Demographics. People who practice New Age spirituality or who embrace its lifestyle are included in the lifestyle of health and sustainability demographic market segment. Figures rising, related to sustainable living, green ecological initiatives, and generally composed of a relatively affluent and well-educated segment. The LOHAS market segment in 2006 was estimated at USD $300 billion, approximately 30% of the United States consumer market. According to the New York Times, a study by the Natural Marketing Institute showed that in 2000, 68 million Americans were included within the LOHAS demographic. The sociologist Paul H. Ray, who coined the term cultural creatives in his book The Cultural Creatives, How 50 Million People Are Changing the World, states, "What you're seeing is a demand for products of equal quality that are also virtuous." The movement is strongly gendered. Sociologist Ciara O'Connor argues that it shows a tension between commodification and women's empowerment. Community. Some New Agers advocate living in a simple and sustainable manner to reduce humanity's impact on the natural resources of Earth. And they shun consumerism. The New Age movement has been centered around rebuilding a sense of community to counter social disintegration. This has been attempted through the formation of intentional communities, where individuals come together to live and work in a communal lifestyle. Holistic health. Practitioners of New Age spirituality may use alternative medicine in addition to or in place of conventional medicine. While some conventional physicians have adopted aspects or the complete approach of holistic health. The mainstreaming of the holistic health movement in the UK is discussed by Maria Tighe. The interrelation of holistic health with the New Age movement is illustrated in Jenny Butler's ethnographic description of angel therapy in the Republic of Ireland. Music. New Age music is peaceful music of various styles intended to create inspiration, relaxation, and positive feelings while listening. Studies have determined that New Age music can be an effective component of stress management. The style began in the 1970s with the works of freeform jazz groups recording on the ECM label, such as Oregon, the Paul Winter Consort, and other pre-ambient bands, as well as ambient music performer Brian Eno and classical avant-garde musician Daniel Kabayaka. In the early 1970s, it was mostly instrumental with both acoustic and electronic styles. New Age music evolved to include a wide range of styles from electronic space music using synthesizers and acoustic instrumentals using Native American flutes and drums, singing bowls, and world music sounds to spiritual chanting from other cultures. Many online radio stations exemplify New Age. which has always been a non-empirical phenomenon, intuitive ethereal genre. For example, Gaia radio, reception, organized religion. Mainstream religious institutions have been critical of New Age spirituality. Author Johanna Michelson published her own experiences with various New Age practices in The Beautiful Side of Evil. After concluding these activities were demonic, she converted to Christianity. Michigan attorney and activist Constance Cumbay offered the first major criticism of the New Age movement from a Christian perspective in The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow, The New Age Movement and Our Coming Age of Barbarism. The Roman Catholic Church published A Christian Reflection on the New Age in 2003, following a 6-year study. The 90-page document criticizes New Age practices such as yoga, meditation, feng shui, and crystal healing. According to the Vatican, euphoric states attained through New Age practices should not be confused with prayer or viewed as signs of God's presence. Cardinal Paul Poupard, then president of the Pontifical Council for Culture, said the New Age is a misleading answer to the oldest hopes of man. Monsignor Michael Fitzgerald, then president of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, stated at the Vatican Conference on the document, "The Church avoids any concept that is close to those of the New Age." Expressing agreement with the Vatican's position, Richard Land of the Southern Baptist Convention stated that there's widespread agreement by Baptists who regard New Age ideas as contrary to Christian tradition and doctrine. Richard Land, president of the convention's Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, said there would be widespread agreement among Baptists that New Age ideas are contrary to Christian tradition and doctrine. Academia, in the 2003 book A Culture of Conspiracy, Apocalyptic Visions in Contemporary America, written by Michael Barkun, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, Barkun argues New Age beliefs have been greatly facilitated by the advent of the Internet, which has exposed people to beliefs once consigned to the outermost fringe of political and religious life. He identifies two trends which he terms, the rise of improvisational millennialism, and the popularity of stigmatized knowledge. He voices concern that these trends could lead to mass hysteria and could have a devastating effect on American political life. Richard H. Jones has given a sustained attack on the New Age use of science. Integral theory. The author Ken Wilber posits that most New Age thought falls into what he termed the pre-trans fallacy. According to Wilber, human developmental psychology moves from the pre-personal, through the personal, then to the transpersonal level. He regards 80% of New Age spirituality as pre-rational and as relying primarily on mythic magical thinking. This contrasts with a post-rational genuinely world-centric consciousness. Despite his criticism of most New Age thought, Wilber has been categorized as New Age due to his emphasis on a transpersonal view, and more recently, as a philosopher. Indigenous peoples of the Americas. Some adherents of traditional disciplines, such as the Lakota people, a tribe of the indigenous peoples of the Americas, reject the expropriation of their ceremonial ways by non-Indians. They see the New Age movement as either not fully understanding, deliberately trivializing, or distorting their disciplines. They have coined the term plastic medicine men to describe individuals from within their own communities, who are prostituting our spiritual ways for their own selfish gain, with no regard for the spiritual well-being of the people as a whole. The term plastic shaman has been applied to outsiders who identify themselves as shamans, holy people, or other traditional spiritual leaders, but who have no genuine connection to the traditions or cultures they claim to represent. The academic Ward Churchill criticized the New Age movement as an instrument of cultural imperialism that is exploitative of indigenous cultures by reducing them to a commodity to be traded. In Fantasies of the Master Race, he criticized the cultural appropriation of Native American culture and symbols in not only the New Age movement, but also in art and popular culture. Goddess movement. Followers of the Goddess movement have severely criticized the New Age as fundamentally patriarchal, analytical rather than intuitive, and as supporting the status quo, particularly in its implicit gender roles. Monica Star paragraph wrote that New Age channelers were virtually all women, but the spirits they purported to channel, offering guidance to humanity, were nearly all male. Star paragraph. A paragraph was highly critical of theosophy, the IAM activity, and particularly Alice Bailey, whom she saw as promoting Nazi-like Aryan ideals. Star paragraph. A paragraph's writings also condemn the New Age for its support of communication and information processing technologies which, she believes, may produce harmful low-level electromagnetic radiation. Social and political movement. While many commentators have focused on the personal aspects of the New Age movement, it also has a social and political component. The New Age political movement became visible in the 1970s, peaked in the 1980s, and continued into the 1990s. In the 21st century, the political movement evolved in new directions. Late 20th century. After the political turmoil of the 1960s, many activists in North America and Europe became disillusioned with traditional reformist and revolutionary political ideologies. Some began searching for a new politics that gave special weight to such topics as consciousness, ecology, personal and spiritual development, community empowerment, and global unity. An outpouring of books from New Age thinkers acknowledged that search and attempted to articulate that politics. According to some observers, the first was Mark Satin's New Age Politics. It originally appeared in Canada in 1976. Other books that have been described as New Age political include Theodore Roszak's Person/Planet, Marilyn Ferguson's The Aquarian Conspiracy, Alvin Toffler and Heidi Toffler's The Third Wave, Hazel Henderson's The Politics of the Solar Age, Friedrich Capra's The Turning Point, Robert Muller's New Genesis, John Naisbitt's Megachance, Willis Harman's Global Mind Change, James Redfield's The Celestine Prophecy, and Corinne McLaughlin and Gordon Davidson's Spiritual Politics. All these books were issued by major publishers. Some became international bestsellers. By the 1980s, New Age political ideas were being discussed in big city newspapers and established political magazines. In addition, some of the New Age's own periodicals were regularly addressing social and political issues. In the U.S., observers pointed to Leading Edge Bulletin, New Age Journal, New Options Newsletter, and Newton Reader. Other such periodicals included New Humanity, Alterna, Odyssey, and World Union from the Sri Aurobindo Ashram. As with any political movement, organizations sprang up to generate popular support for New Age political ideas and policy positions. In the U.S., commentators identified the New Age Caucus of California, the New World Alliance, Planetary Citizens, and John Vasconcellos' Self-Determination, a personal/political network as New Age political organizations. So, on occasion, did their own spokespeople. There may have been more New Age political organizing outside the U.S. Writer-activists pointed to the Future in Our Hands movement in Norway, the early European Green movements, and the Values Party of New Zealand. Although these books, periodicals, and organizations did not speak with one voice, commentators found that many of them sounded common themes: our world does not reflect who we at our best can be. All our most significant social and political problems go back at least 300 years. The political system therefore needs to be transformed, not just reformed, with the help of a new political theory appropriate to our time. Holismo seeing everything as connected is the first step on the way to creating that new political theory. Doing away with the categories of left and right is another essential part of that task. Significant social change requires deep changes in consciousness. Institutional change is not enough. Above all, consciousness needs to become more ecologically aware, more feminist, and more oriented to compassionate global unity. Desirable values include nonviolence, diversity, a sense of community, and a sense of enoughness. Human growth and development, not economic growth, should be the overarching goal of New Age society. Ownership and control of institutions is important. But the size of institutions is at least as important. We must move away from big governments, big corporations, and other large institutions to the extent it enhances our lives. We can begin this process by interlacing hierarchical structures with horizontal networks. Global unification is a key goal, but is probably best accomplished by networking at many levels rather than establishing a centralized world state. The agent of political change is no longer the working class, or any economic class. Instead, it is all those who are developing themselves personally and spiritually, all who aspire to live lives of dignity and service. Evolution is to be preferred to revolution. However, the forces of evolutionary change need not be a statistical majority. A critical mass of informed, committed, and spiritually aware people can move a nation forward. Over time, these themes began to cohere. By the 1980s, observers in both North America and Europe were acknowledging the emergence of a New Age political ideology. Political objections at Centuria unregistered trademark end. Toward the end of the 20th century, criticisms were being directed at the New Age political project from many quarters, but especially from the liberal left and religious right. On the left, scholars argued that New Age politics is an oxymoron, that personal growth has little or nothing to do with political change. One political scientist said New Age politics fails to recognize the realities of economic and political power. Another faulted it for not being opposed to the capitalist system, or to liberal individualism. Anti-nuclear activist Harvey Wasserman argued that New Age politics is too averse to social conflict to be effective politically. On the right, some worried that the drive to come up with a new consciousness and new values would topple time-tested old values. Others worried that the celebration of diversity would leave no strong viewpoint in place to guide society. The passion for world unity one humanity, one planet was said to lead inevitably to the centralization of power. Some doubted that networking could provide an effective counterweight to centralization and bureaucracy. Neither left nor right was impressed with the New Age's ability to organize itself politically. Many explanations were offered for the New Age's practical political weakness. Some said that the New Age political thinkers and activists of the 1970s and 1980s were simply too far in advance of their time. Others suggested that New Age activists' commitment to the often frustrating process of consensus decision-making was at fault. After it dissolved, New World Alliance co-founder Mark Sarkady told an interviewer that the alliance had been too New Age countercultural to appeal to a broad public. New directions in the 21st century. In the 21st century, writers and activists continue to pursue a political project with New Age roots. However, it differs from the project that had come before. The principal difference was anticipated in texts like New Age Politics author Mark Satin's essay 28 Ways of Looking at Terrorism, Human Potential movement historian Walter Truett Anderson's essay 4 Different Ways to Be Absolutely Right, and mediator Mark Gazon's book A House Divided. In these texts, the New Age political perspective is recognized as legitimate. But it is presented as merely one among many, with strong points and blind spots just like all the rest. The result was to alter the nature of the New Age political project. If every political perspective had unique strengths and significant weaknesses, then it no longer made sense to try to convert everyone to the New Age political perspective, as had been attempted in the 1970s and 1980s. It made more sense to try to construct a higher political synthesis that took every political perspective into account, including that of the New Age. Many 21st-century books have attempted to articulate foundational aspects of this approach to politics and social change. They include Ken Wilber's A Theory of Everything, Mark Satin's Radical Middle, David Corton's The Great Turning, Steve McIntosh's Integral Consciousness and the Future of Evolution, Marilyn Hamilton's Integral City, and Carter Phipps's Evolutionaries. In addition, many organizations are providing opportunities for focused political listening and learning that can contribute to the construction of a higher political synthesis. They include America Speaks, Association Reset Dialogues on Civilizations, Listening Project, Search for Common Ground, Spiral Dynamics Integral, and World Public Forum, Dialogue of Civilizations. Another difference between the two eras of political thought is that, in the 21st century, few political actors use the term New Age or post-New Age to describe themselves or their work. Some observers attribute this to the negative connotations that the term New Age had acquired. Instead, Other terms are employed that connote a similar sense of personal and political development proceeding together over time. For example, according to an anthology from 3 political scientists, many writers and academics use the term transformational as a substitute for such terms as New Age and New Paradigm. Ken Wilber has popularized use of the term integral, Carter Phipps emphasizes the term evolutionary, and both terms can be found in some authors' book titles. See also Notes and references. Sources. Further reading. External links, New Age at DMOZ, the dictionary definition of New Age at Wiktionary.